The irony of this podcast is that my clients do call me daddy.
Qu'est-ce que je vais te nommer?
Welcome back to episode 8 of my Saint to Siren podcast. We open this episode with a comment from Creatrix, and she says, "You are such an iconic queen. Thank you for such good information. I wonder if you could speak on staying safe while cyber doming. Have you ever dealt with cyber attacks, scams, sites that are safe to use, or even stalkers IRL?" Which in our industry means in real life, probably in most industries. And also, please begin with the German ATM story. So, without further ado, I will regale you now with the German ATM story, which goes down in the annals of my storytelling / distinguished career as a PSO, cyber findom, as the most shocking and horrific PTSD, almost complex PTSD inducing session that I have ever had, hands down. And I don't like to tell it. I tease about telling it, but again, without further ado, here we go. So I received a text message, a chat through the platform for whom I work. And everybody's been asking me, what is that platform? So let me go ahead and tell you now. It is NightFlirt. I am at nightflirt.com /the Violatrix, where I have been for almost 20 years. So when a client on NightFlirt, a new client, approaches you, it can happen one of two ways. They can call blindly through the phone system. Again, it's a double blind phone system where they patch in client and flirt, and neither of you can see each other's number. This is one of the reasons that PSO, phone sex, will never go away, because it's the most anonymous and safe and secure for especially high earning gentlemen who want no access, no exposure to who they are. So this particular client wrote me through the system. I believe he sent me an email, and he said, "My name is so-and-so. I live in Europe. I'm wondering if you are open to an ATM session." So for those of you who don't know the acronyms in our business, ATM stands for ass to mouth. Now, typically, if it's a woman, a flirt is listed as a run-of-the-mill kind of girl next door housewife, and someone asks, or a submissive, and someone asks for ATM, what they're asking is for her to take a dildo, play with it anally, and then put it in her mouth. That is typically what you think when you think of ATM. In a findom aspect, that's going to entail the gentleman, the client, using his toys and doing ass to mouth. If someone comes to you, a client comes to you and they want ATM, and you are a findom or a dominatrix, what they're saying is, "I would like to do this for you over the phone or on cam, depending on what services you offer." So I replied to him and said, "I don't normally allow it, like those years are behind me. However, tell me a little bit more about yourself." And he basically said that, he had a really good job, which I always vet the clients to make sure that they're going to be stay and pay. I don't want one-off clients, especially at my rate. I'm $3.99 a minute. So my phone doesn't ring often. Matter of fact, it rarely rings when I log into the system. But at $3.99 a minute, being one of the most expensive, longest running regular girls on that site, of course, there's porn stars and things. They're $5.99 a minute, $7.99 a minute, but they're rarely on. Or maybe there's a couple of girls that do girl shows or multiple people shows that are $5 or $7.99 a minute. But for me, being $3.99 a minute, my phone rarely rings. So when it does, I have to ensure that I capture that client and don't lose him and turn him into a regular repeat client. It's paramount. So he really sold me on this session by saying to me, "I'm looking for a new flirt, consistent play." And those were the triggers that I was seeking, and he hit right on each one. So I told him, okay, we'll do it. So we set a day and a time as we open the session. And at the time, we used to use Skype. Skype earlier this year outlawed, banned any adult services, and they kind of did away with the Skype interface and changed it to something called Teams or whatever. So at the time, the person would buy my Skype ID from my Night Flirt profile, and which I charged $5 for to make sure that people weren't just smashing and grabbing, my ID and then filling my messaging platforms up with spam. So he bought it for $5, accessed my Skype, and was ready and waiting for me. So he calls through the Night Flirt system. And for those of you that are following me to learn how this goes, this is paramount. This is absolutely imperative that you hear me on this. If you're offering phone with cam and a client wants to do a cam session, whether it's one-way cam, you see them and they don't see you, or the reverse, or you're doing two-way cam, it doesn't matter. You have them buy your ID or you send it. Most of us are using Discord now. You text back and forth just to make sure that they are added on the system and ready to go. You do not test the cam. That's a free show. They bring you through the site, you pick up the dollars, the minutes are rolling, and then you go over to Skype, Discord, whatever it is, and you start the cam. So this is exactly what happened. As his cam opens, it was almost shocking because you rarely see something like this. He was so good looking. He was so blonde and Aryan. His eyes were ice sky blue, ice blue. They were so almost see through. They were absolutely stunning. He had blonde hair, fair skin. He was gorgeous. He was maybe in his, I want to say, early 40s. He was tall, he was thin, he was built. He was sitting in his kitchen, and when you looked at him, it was like he had been dropped into an IKEA like kitchen showroom. Everything was pristine, neat, tidy, perfect. So I was like, this is great. I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be fantastic. Love this guy. But as the cam opened and I'm taking in all of this sensory data, I look at him and he has almost this disconcerting grin on his face. Like his smile wasn't normal. And something must have triggered in my intuition at that time because I remember getting an uneasy feeling. It was like he was seeing me, but he was looking through me. There was no connection, which, even though there's only so much connection you can have through a cam, we weren't connecting. He wasn't connecting to me. He was seeing through me, which told me he had an agenda and I was simply a viewer that he was going to put on a show for, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So he turns around and he points to this meticulously organized, rather large bag. He proceeds to unzip it, all the while staring back into the camera at me with this very weird, borderline creepy grin. He goes back to the bag, unzips it, and begins taking out toy after toy. These were not toys. I'm going to preface this by saying I don't own anything like this. I never have owned anything like this. So I was shocked. These were some of the biggest dildos I'd ever seen. And then it was clear that they had suction cups on them. And I like giggled to myself. I was like, oh, okay. Like it never dawned on me. I know it sounds naive for a domina, but it never dawned on me that a man would use like a dildo with a suction cup. Like I find that funny to begin with, but then a man. So whatever. So he pulls all these things out and they're various shapes, sizes, and colors, but they are enormous. I mean, enormous. He proceeds to begin sticking them around various points of the kitchen, one in the middle of the kitchen table, one on the chair, one on the side of the cabinet, poking straight out. So I'm just watching this and we're not saying a word. He's never said a word. I don't know his name. I'm sure I said a few things in the beginning and it was clear he didn't want to speak. I don't think that he wanted, in the event that I was one of those women that would record a session, I don't think he wanted his voice caught on tape as well as his image, of course. So he's done setting these things all up. He zips up the bag and moves it off the table. Everything was so, for lack of a better word, anal retentive and German. I mean, it was like a stereotype. So he proceeds to stare right into my eyes in the camera and slowly disrobes. He unbuttons his very nice button down shirt. He unbuckles his belt. He takes on his pants Now he is standing before me. Of course, he grabs his shoes and puts his socks inside the shoes and moves them to everything's folded. Like I'm watching this whole process. It was like the Mr. Rogers of dirty findom. So now, with his weird little grin, turns around. He stands there totally naked, spins around for me. I believe he played with himself for a minute to show off his goods, to which I was completely unimpressed and slightly terrified at this point. So he's got all his toys assembled. He proceeds to take the suction cupped dildos and position them all around the kitchen. One on the kitchen cabinet, one dead center in the middle of the table, and others in various places. He proceeds, completely disrobed, completely naked, he proceeds to jump with his very long legs up onto the dead center of the kitchen table, stare at me in the eyes, and drop down like an acrobat or one of those aerobics women in the 80s on one of those jazzercise videos, and he squats down like total dead weight on top of this huge black suction cup dildo, and he is now bouncing up and down on it with this weird, disconcerting, creepy, toothy grin. He's staring at me, and this is the worst part of the whole thing. If this was just phone, I would just be kind of gazing off, not really paying attention. But because this was cam, he is dead center staring me, locked eyes in the eye. So he's hopping up and down on this dildo. He's got other ones in his mouth. He does this for maybe 5 or so minutes, and he's just having the time of his life. He was like a small child at a playground that was like, look, mommy, look at what I can do. And he could tell the discomfort. The more uncomfortable I looked, the more excited he got. At this point, he jumps up from the table. He dislodges the suction cup. It's inside him. He jumps up, and now he's just running around the kitchen, backing up against cabinets, pushing things inside himself. He's giving, mouth, like deep throat to these dildos. He's just putting on this incredible show, and he's like hyper ADHD level. He's so excited to be showing me his toys and his skills, and I'm just so completely horrified. It was horrible. So at some point during the show, and I'm again eyes locked with him, he's making sure that he's dead locked on me. He gets back onto the table, and I can't have the vantage point of seeing the ones on the covers. I can't see them exactly because the camera is aimed directly at the one on the table. He gets back on the table, suction cup, the one that's still in his ass, sits back down, makes sure he turns around, he makes sure that it's adhered suction-wise to the table, jumping up and down, and now he looks at me, he pauses. There's like dead air space. He stares at me, and with the most utterly sinister, sadistic grin, slowly begins to remove himself, to rise up off of the dildo. And let me say this. I'm from Hershey, Pennsylvania. I'm born and raised in Hershey, Pennsylvania. When my girlfriend and I in high school would hook school and go down to like Wildwood for the day, like the beach, and we'd end up at a party with a bunch of like older guys, and we'd be like, oh, we're from Hershey, Pennsylvania. They'd be like, haha, the Hershey Highway. I didn't understand the joke. I didn't know what it meant. I now know what it means. And when I tell you that this was the truest definition of the Hershey Highway I had ever seen, it was as if like one of those cartoons where you see like a cartoon character like throwing ice cream scoops on top of an ice cream cone, except the ice cream cone is inverted, it's in reverse. Like it looked as if someone had taken chocolate ice cream and fudge and just went nuts throwing it on top of this thing. He is so proud of the mess that he's made, and it was disgusting. And it was in amounts that I didn't even know someone could produce. And he's staring at me in the eyes, and I'm thinking, okay, thank God it's over. He's going to close the session, and he's proud of this. No, no, no. He wasn't nearly over. He was staring at me because he's getting hard at the idea that I am so horrified. Here's this naive American, quote, findom, and I'm showing her this disgusting stuff. And so, okay, he did it. He managed to squeeze by. He managed to fly in under the radar by saying ATM. I have 3 hard rules in what I do. Obviously, age, play, children, that goes without saying. That's not even a rule. That's just
morally and ethically, it goes without saying. My 3 rules: no needles, no blood, and no scat. Now, I know that the Germans are famous for this, and it crosses your mind from time to time, but I'd never seen anything like it because I'd never taken a scat show, and it's in my hard list of 3 prohibited fetishes, kinks. So at this point, he is now seeing my reaction, and now he's getting more off on it. Now he's going like more crazy on it. There's so much that he's produced from his body. I remember thinking to myself, what the fuck did this guy eat to make this happen? That was my first initial thought when I saw the pile that was on the table. And I can't begin to tell you, I am like vomiting. I'm throwing up in my mouth. I'm turning green. The more shocked that I was, the more he stayed and stared at me. And then, just when I thought it was going to end and it couldn't get worse, he begins to start playing in it and takes his face and slams his mouth down on this thing and starts deep throating it to the point where, like, you couldn't even see it anymore because his whole face had engulfed it. It's on his hands. He's smearing it down himself. It's on his neck. It's covering those previously translucently blue, ice blue eyes. It's all over him. It was like a little kid who had gotten into their diaper and was like, "Oh, look what I did." But it was obviously far worse. And I know there are diaper fetishes. I know that there's scat fetishes, but I'd never seen it. And I have to tell you, I never want to see it again. To this day, I still have nightmares about it. He's nowhere near done. It's on his face. It's in his nails. It's in his hair. It's in his teeth. He's gulping and eating and swallowing. Now he goes over and I see he moves the camera, and now I can see that he's got the one on the cupboard. They're all covered because I didn't have the vantage point previously. So now I'm seeing that he's got it on this one. Now he's going down on that one. This previously pristine IKEA level kitchen is now covered in shit from one end to the other. So is he. And I think there is no way that this can get any worse. And he takes a bunch of the toys and gets as close to the camera as possible and starts, for lack of a better word, making out with these coated toys. I am throwing up at this point. I'm gagging. I'm throwing up in my mouth. I it was a combination of the shock. Now, of course, I didn't want to disconnect him, because if you disconnect someone, they will smack you with bad feedback on the site. Or if I disconnect him and block him, he'll create, sometimes clients have been known to create other profiles and then slam you with negative feedback. And your feedback is so crucial to your business. And I'd never really received negative feedback. So all of these things are like flipping through my head. And I'm like, what am I going to do? It may not shock you to hear that on top of all of this, again, just when I thought this nightmare is going to be over, he proceeds to arouse himself, and now he wants to orgasm to all of this. So adding insult to injury, now I have to deal with, a JOI, which like jerk off instruction type call on top of the ATM, and now scat, which was surreptitiously, you know, grandfathered into the session that I had not previously permitted. So it was hands down the most disgusting call I'd ever had. Now, if you listen to my podcast, you know that a few years ago, I had a friend. I used to go to his house and make calls because my kids were little, and it was much more free for me to make my night flirt calls at someone's house. Plus, we could drink wine, and they would get a kick out of it. And my clients liked having someone watch them. It's not that they didn't know. So this friend of mine later had secret recordings that I had not permitted, didn't know. He went in the bathroom, recorded me, and then threatened to extort me for various things that he wanted. And I ended up taking him to court, and the DA basically threw the book at him. I didn't even sue him. The DA took the case, and they arrested him and handled the whole thing. And a year ago in November, this guy named Benny in Las Vegas, I won the case, and I still have a restraining order that ends. Oh, it just ended in November. So let's pray to God this doesn't come back around. But anyway, he had asked me, if he ever calls you again, can you record it? And I was like, A, this guy will never call me again. And B, I don't know. I've never tried to record a client session like that. He's like, please, I want to see it. So I said to my friend at the time, there is no way this guy is going to call me back. He saw the horror in my face. He saw that I couldn't wait to get off the call. He saw that I was physically ill. There's no way he's going to call back. Sure enough, about a week later, he circles back and says, I'd love another session. And I was like, okay, you got it. So, in an interesting twist of fate, instead of using Skype, he asked to move to Zoom. In the days leading up to that appointment on Zoom, I discovered that you could record a session on Zoom. So the session starts, I hit record, and sure enough, unbeknownst to me, this gigantic banner pops up and says the session's being recorded. He turns pale white, not that he wasn't already pale white, but he turns like all the blood rushed out of his body, and he worked so fast to turn off his phone. He tripped, he fell, he was like wrecking things in the path of destruction to get the thing turned off. And that was the end. I never heard from him again. A matter of fact, I think he blocked me, and I was like, oh, thank God. So there you have it, folks. There is the story of my German ATM client. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that it was everything you wanted it to be. It is my most disgusting story. I mean, I have shocking stories across the board. It's not perhaps my most shocking story. That's the football player story. You guys are going to have to be active in the comments underneath my podcast because everything has run together between me taking my client calls, me just talking in general to the people in my life, and then the podcast. And then sometimes I have to re-record episodes. I cannot remember what I covered and what I didn't. So you guys will have to tell me in the comments if I told the football players or the football team, the American NFL football team story, that is hands down my most shocking story of all stories of all time. If I didn't tell it, I will tell it next episode. Outside of that, my other shocking stories, I mean, I have my one client, no, you know what? I can't say that on air. That could potentially involve a crime. I can't say that one. That kind of involves football players as well, NFL play. There's a lot of my stories that involve NFL players. But I will tell you this, as far as shocking is concerned with clients and stories, one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is that I have one particular client, but he's not alone. I have many that are surgeons or physicians. Now, I can't say where this particular gentleman is from because it will absolutely give him away. And I can't say his specialty, but he is a very high level surgeon. And he's a good looking guy, super hung. How do I know? Because when we have our cam sessions, his cam opens. He looks like the prototype daddy, DILF, zaddy. He's got the glasses, he's got the beard, he's super cut. Even though, I mean, he's in his 40s, maybe late 40s, early 50s. He is in such amazing shape. He could easily be a male model, no question. And then he's always sitting on a chair when our sessions open. And he's super hung. And he goes to sex parties and the kind that are like, Eyes Wide Shut kind, although I never saw that movie, like The Masquerade, the high level people, celebrities. He goes to those bougie kinds. And he fucks women, he fucks men's wives, he fucks the husbands in front of the wife, he fucks the husband and the wife in front of a group of people sipping champagne and cocktails in tuxedos. Like, this does exist. Do I have an Illuminati story? Yes, I do. Don't really care to tell it. It is very creepy and I don't like it. If you guys want it, you're going to have to tell me in the comments because, I don't know what content you want to hear about. But this particular surgeon, who I don't want to say that there's like an equal crush, like a mutual crush on him, but he is adorable. For the first year that I had him as a client, he creeped me the hell out. Once he became more human and I got to know him, he's adorable. But I still can't quite get my head around finding someone attractive who serves dick, takes dick. Like, that's my own personal thing that I have to, like a hump I have to get over, even though it's what I do for a living. The thing that utterly amazes me is when he'll call me, it's usually on a Thursday or a Friday, Sometimes it's from his office in the hospital. Sometimes it's from his home office. I'll be like, "What are you doing this weekend? Is it a party?" At one time, he participated in that thing where that girl wanted to fuck like 40 guys on her 40th birthday or 30 guys on her 30th birthday. I can't remember what it was. He went to that and he told me what went down. And that, again, I don't want to get off topic, but that's like a whole other story. That was fucking crazy. I can't even imagine wanting to have sex with two men at once, let alone with 30. Like my mind was blown, but it was like her dream and she made it happen. But his side of the story was pretty lackluster. It was pretty dismal the way it really happens behind the scenes. But again, I'll save that for next time. The thing that shocks me most about this particular handsome, zaddy, daddy, DILF surgeon is that he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm meeting my colleague and his wife for dinner and drinks, and then we're gonna go to like a beautiful hotel suite, and I'm gonna fuck her, and I'm gonna cuck him, or he's gonna suck my dick, and I'm gonna fuck her, or she's gonna suck my dick, and I'm gonna fuck him." And I'm like, Wait, like your colleague, like you guys are across the operating table and be like, dick will be in my mouth in 72 hours. Like, what in the hell? But the thing that you guys don't understand, and that I didn't understand until my life climbed into the 1% tax bracket, until we were fortunate enough to make smart decisions and investments, and my husband's company went public, until we crawled into that upper echelon of society, you don't really understand how things function at that level. When you have that level of money, not unlike the theory of that movie Hostel, rich people run out, like rich people get bored quickly and they feel that they're above the law, and they often are looking for the next thing to get them in trouble, the next thing they can do that walks that fine line of being untouchable, illegal, and again, I don't want to go Epstein-ish on this, but Epstein, I think, was the first time, probably Harvey Weinstein and Epstein was really the first time that America pulled the veil back on, pulled the curtains back on. This is what really goes on. So when I tell you the things that go on at the higher income, the wealthier, the higher socioeconomic levels of our country and globally, even worse globally, because Americans we're in training wheels compared to the rest of the world with kink and fetish and things. But you guys are hearing about the Dubai parties and things. Like, you can't be shocked at this point. But it never ceases to amaze me that this, brainiac surgeon can be, inside someone's body, asking his colleague, hand me the scalpel, and 72 hours later, he's balls deep in his mouth, cucking him and fucking his wife. Like, it never gets old. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. And I want to close with one quick thing. I want to say a super, truly heartfelt thank you to all of you who have liked, listened, liked, commented, thumbs up my Spotify podcast. Because when I tell you that I am shocked at what I received yesterday, shocked, humbled, and so grateful to you guys. So Spotify sends out this thing called 2025 Wrapped for Creators. Spotify's way of saying thank you for all the activity and for killing it with your podcast. I mean, I don't know what other people say, but that's basically what they said to me. So apparently we reached 22 countries overall with this podcast. Your activity, comments, likes, and shares have been noticed by Spotify, and it has risen us to some ranks that I didn't even know were possible. Top countries are New Zealand, the UK, Germany, of course, surprise, surprise, Canada, and the USA. 93 people made my show their top 10 favorite. 73 people, top 5. And 31 of you, the number 1 show. And I cannot thank you enough. Fans listened to my show more than 82% of others. My debut season was more popular than 88% of other shows. Thank you all. I couldn't have done it without you, and we're in this together. Stay tuned for next episode and let me know what you want to hear. I'm in it.
Qu'est-ce que je vais te nommer?